What's up, A to Z Sports Live on a Thursday. Gonna have another great show. I feel like we've had lots of good shows so far this week with Sam and Jack pulling some weight on Monday and yesterday. We'll talk about yesterday's show here in a second. And then today, Jack and I talking about Brian Callahan's recently revealed preseason philosophy and how that will play a role in some of the conversation around Will Levis and other key Titans and how they fit in said preseason philosophy, how it differs from Mike Vrabel's preseason philosophy, and where we think this is a good thing, where it's probably gonna be a little bit interesting to see how it kind of plays out. So we're gonna have a good conversation this morning. It is Thursday, which means the Magic Bucket is back. It's been a couple weeks since we've done the Magic Bucket, since the 4th of July was last week. So Jack, we'll get the bucket back out of the closet, dust it off, and make sure we see what it has in store for us today. So without further ado, let's get it going and tell the people what they have to do before we officially start today's conversation.
Yeah, happy Thursday, everybody. We got good numbers rolling in already. If you don't mind, drop a like on the show, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Like the show. It helps us grow. It helps us reach new audience members. It helps our engagement numbers. All of that stuff is good for A to Z Sports. So if you like the show, don't forget to acknowledge it and acknowledge it with the like button, whether you're watching on Facebook or YouTube. Also, if you're watching on Facebook, I encourage you all to share the show to at least one of your Titans Facebook groups. I'm a part of like 15 of them. I know you guys are a part of them. I see y'all typing in there. I see y'all posting in there pretty regularly. So if you don't mind, please share the show into at least one of those Titans Facebook groups. That helps us grow. If you're watching on YouTube, don't forget to tap that bell icon at the top of your screen. Turn those notifications on. You do not want to miss a thing. Training camp's less than 2 weeks away. SEC Media Days next week. Going to be tons of stuff going up on A to Z Sports YouTube channel. So don't forget to turn those notifications on so you don't miss an update when A to Z Sports posts any content or goes live from YouTube. Finally, if you're watching on Twitch, text that Twitch link around. Whether you're at work, whether you're getting ready for work, send it to a buddy who might be struggling this morning. Send it to somebody who might need to kill an hour this morning. We're going to help wake them up. We're going to talk some Titans. We'll be your breath of fresh air. We'll be your glass of coffee, maybe your second glass of coffee. But with all that said, Austin, it's time to get the show on the road.
Yep, let's do it officially. Welcome into A to Z Sports, powered as always by the BetMGM app. I'm Austin Stanley. He is Jack Gentry, the Tighten Up Podcast, and we are Nashville's on-demand sports talk network, going live weekday mornings at 8 Central Time on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. Links to the show segment by segment on our Twitter X timeline. That's at A to Z Sports. Also hit us up on Instagram, TikTok, and Threads for more great Titans content. We got to thank our sponsors before we officially go too, because they make things work for us and they help out all of you, like Wilson County Hyundai. WilsonCountyHyundai.com is where to go to find your new ride, or check them out in Lebanon. The Bone and Joint Institute, boneandjointtn.org, the region's destination for comprehensive orthopedic and sports medicine care, and Farm Bureau Health Plans. Get better with Farm Bureau Health Plans, and you can use our link to save money on your plan and get a quote today by going to fbhp.com/ATOZ. So, Jack, before we dive into the recently revealed and learned Brian Callahan preseason philosophy, we do have to address the reaction to yesterday's show, because Gene comes in here and says, hey, at least it's not a bash a rookie before he plays a down topic this morning. And Jack, when you saw Gene's comment in the YouTube waiting room, your exact words were what?
I said Gene's telling on himself. He obviously didn't watch the show yesterday, if that's his opinion. And everybody on Twitter I saw got in on the quote tweets and on the comments. Everybody who didn't watch the show yesterday, assuming that we spent an hour bashing T'Vondre Sweat, calling him a bust. That's not how the show went. I mean, we asked the question whether it was fair or foul to determine whether or not T'Vondre Sweat has kind of had bust behavior up to this point, which is him not being in minicamp, him, having the red flags with the weight and with the arrest before the draft. It's a nuanced conversation surrounding T'Vondre Sweat. And by the way, neither Sam or myself called him a bust yesterday. We both said it's way too early to make a decision one way or another on the guy because he hadn't put pads on yet. So yes, everybody who's jumping on our backs for the topic that we discussed yesterday did not watch the show, and Gene's an example of just telling on himself.
Yeah, and the other thing too is not like we just pulled this out of thin air. It was not pulled out of the rear ends of me, Sam, or Jack yesterday morning. It was the fact that we played the clip of Dane Brugler, who is arguably the best NFL draft analyst and expert out there. Like, I think Dane Brugler might have that trophy for the current standings of NFL draft analysts. And he is one who went on to Buck's show on the Zone on July 1st and said, okay, well, here's why there's a but. Here's why he was not on the draft boards of several NFL teams. Here's why he does have bust potential, because can you really trust T'Vondre Sweat? I think it is an interesting situation. Malachi says, can a second round pick be a bust though? I view bust as top 15 picks. I get that, and I think that's a fair conversation to have. I think because the Titans selected T'Vondre Sweat at 38, when they could have had options to trade back, that's been documented by Buck and others. I think T'Vondre Sweat has the ability to be a bust. And I'll follow up with Malachi, who also says, or at least first round picks. I mean, is Kevin Dodd a bust?
Right? I was about to ask.
Yeah. Is Kevin Dodd a bust? Yes, Kevin Dodd is a bust. He was the 33rd overall pick in the NFL draft by John Robinson in 2016. Yeah, that's a bust. Is Darrington Evans a bust? He was the 3rd round pick as a running back. Didn't do anything really for the Titans besides scoring a touchdown against the Detroit Lions in a blowout in like 2019 or 2019. So yeah, like Darrington Evans, in my opinion, is a bust as a 3rd rounder. So yes, you can be a bust beyond the 1st round of the draft. Everything about bust labels, I think, has to be a case-by-case situation. There are busts because of character, Isaiah Wilson. Then there are busts because of injuries, Tyrone Calico, right?
That still
I
hurts.
think there's a different situation with every bust. And so is T'Vondre Sweat beginning to earn a bust label from some national media? Yeah, because that's why we had the topic yesterday. So thank you to everybody who watched the show and understand the content of the show, because Mario brings up that maybe they have a low IQ if they were not able to understand the nuance of that conversation. So you either didn't watch the show or you have a low IQ if you were hating on the conversation, because Sam and Jack, and I will throw me in there too, I do not think it is fair to label T'Vondre Sweat as a bust potential at this point. So there you go. I do also want to get this. Joshua saying, like the show. King VC says, like the show. Lock in, like the show. We got a super chat early. It's the middle of July. And so there you go. Lock in, like the show. DeQuan says, Sweat going to be a major problem. He will prove y'all wrong. I don't know who y'all is in DeQuan's comment, but it's, I still think it was a reach of a draft pick. Is T'Vondre Sweat going to prove his doubters wrong? I don't know. Like, I can think it was a reach of a draft pick, but also think it's foul to call him a bust potential at this point. But yes, I think the magnifying glass and attention is on T'Vondre Sweat because of the time he missed in May and July and June. I know you and Sam talked about this yesterday, so I need to get my opinions off my chest before we kind of dive deeper. But I feel like I can rinse and move forward now that I've said my piece.
Yeah, and for everybody who's jumping in on Gene's side, which there I don't think are anybody, but I encourage you to watch yesterday's show. It was a really fun show, and there was a nuanced discussion about T'Vondre Sweat. I read off some of the defensive Outland Trophy winners, and the history there is good. The hit rate's really solid there, and I brought that up while also saying, you know what, it might be fair to assume that T'Vondre Sweat has some bust tendencies already on his resume right now, but I'm not calling him a bust. Obviously, it's way too early to call anybody that. So I encourage you all, if you didn't watch the show yesterday, go ahead and do that after today's show. It was really fun.
Yeah, it is something to monitor, but bust is too easy of or too quick of a label. All right, so now let's get to Brian Callahan. The head coach was on the OTP, the official Titans podcast. They released that in a couple parts throughout earlier this week. Let's hear Mike Keith, voice of the Titans, ask Brian Callahan about how he wants to handle the preseason games the first time as a head coach.
How do you, in your coaching philosophy, from an evaluation standpoint, see preseason games?
Preseason is important. I think I've learned some lessons over the years. We kind of adopted that LA Rams mentality when we got to Cincinnati, where we didn't play our starters at all. We had some injuries with Burrow last year, where we were going to play our starters more because we had been a kind of slow starting team out of the gate, and that was one of the things we felt like might help us is playing in the preseason more. And obviously, we weren't going to put our guys out there in Cincinnati without Joe with them. It just didn't make sense. So I believe in those guys playing some in the preseason. I think it helps you get ready for the opener, so the opener's not the first time you've been tackled or the first time you hit the game speed. And even though the preseason game speed is not the same as the regular season, it's still playing live football. And I think starters playing a little bit in those games, I think, is going to go a long way. The joint practices will be important, where we get a ton of work against the team in a more controlled environment. But you'll see our starters play in the preseason.
So you'll see our starters play in the preseason. Quote from Brian Callahan. Jonathan immediately says, "It is so nice to have a coach be transparent." Man, I think the answer from Mike Vrabel, I feel pretty confident that this is what Mike Vrabel would have said. Every individual player has a plan. We go over that plan with the player, and the player understands what their job is and what their role is and what they need to do to get ready for the regular season. So the plan is different for everybody. And we work with Todd and the rest of the training staff for their plan. That is how Vrabel would have said it. But just flat out saying, starters are going to play in the preseason. Interesting, Jack.
Yeah, absolutely. But I mean, he kind of gave a reason, as to why they might play and why they handled things differently in Cincinnati at times. Zach Taylor came from that Sean McVay coaching tree, and McVay in Los Angeles, he doesn't like to play his guys in the preseason. He says, you know what, if it costs us a game early, that's all right. As long as we're healthy heading into the season, we can make up for it on the back half because they were talented enough to do so. That's not where the Titans are this year, right? They don't have the talent to say, you know what, we can drop one early and we'll pick it up late. That's not where they are right now. They're in culture building mode. They need wins early, especially with these first 4 games on the schedule. Like, you can't afford to come out flat in Chicago with Aaron Rodgers on deck. So, look, I love the strategy. I love that Callahan's open and honest about it because, I mean, even though Vrabel was hiding some of this stuff, like, what do you really have to lose by saying, hey, you know what, we're going to roll out our starters in the preseason. We're going to let them throw it around a little bit.
Yeah, for sure. And I think the philosophy is the correct philosophy, but he also put in there the ability to adapt, because I agree with him. Last year in Cincinnati, Joe Burrow strains his calf, right? I kind of remember the rolling out to the right practice footage of Burrow throwing the football and then kind of pulling up Gimpy with the calf. And so if Joe Burrow is not out there, then what's the point of putting Jamar Chase, T. Higgins, Tyler Boyd, Joe Mixon, the offensive line, the tight ends? What's the point of them playing out there with the backup quarterback if the whole point of playing those guys was to get them reps with each other? So I like that idea. I think it was also smart for Mike Vrabel's standpoint. Will Levis gets hurt in Minnesota, right? After he played the Bears preseason game, they go to joint practices in Minnesota. Something happens, lower body, and then he was not playing the rest of the preseason. Thought that was the correct move in that situation. Ryan Tannehill should have played more in the preseason. Pretty obvious. I think there's always the risk of those guys getting hurt, but they can also get hurt week 1, series 1 in New Orleans if that's the case too. So I think we both agree that Brian Callahan's philosophy on the preseason games is a better philosophy than Mike Vrabel's.
Yeah, no doubt. And I mean, we saw the week 1 returns under Mike Vrabel. Like when he took over in 2018, obviously that Dolphins game was kind of crazy.
Yeah.
And I hate to hold that game against him, but he was 2-4 in week 1. Yeah. He was 2-4 in week 1. This Titans team can't afford to lose in Chicago. With a rookie quarterback, you're going up against Caleb Williams. You're going up against the Bears team that like you, is really trying to figure things out. And Matt Eberflus, this is his last year to probably do so up there. So you got to come out there ready to play week 1. So often, Vrabel's teams would just struggle through that season opener. And with Callahan throwing Will Levis and DeAndre Hopkins and Calvin Ridley and Tyler Boyd all out there to gain reps, gain confidence, to help timing, to gain momentum heading into week 1, all that's really important when you have a young quarterback. Like, In 3-4 years, when Will Levis hopefully turns into a franchise pillar and a guy that you can trust and, doesn't necessarily need the reps in the preseason, then you scale things back a little bit probably. But preseason's kind of touch and go. And when you have a young quarterback with a new group in a new system, get him as many reps as possible before the regular season rolls around because you want to iron out those mistakes. Let Will Levis make the mistakes in the preseason. If he does that, you can figure out how to coach him out of them by week 1 and hit the ground running.
All right, Jack, I'm going to put 30 seconds on the clock. Can you name the 2 week 1 wins under Mike Vrabel? Go.
Denver and Cleveland.
Okay, you did that in 5 seconds, so good job. That was a lot easier. Hey, look at that. It's fresh and on this July 11th morning. All right, so let's go ahead and get the audience involved here. I think, we both co-sign on Brian Callahan's philosophy, but let's ask this question. Who are Titans players you don't need to see in preseason games? So we'll get to Will Levis, but I think the chronological flow of this conversation is let's talk about guys that you don't need to see in preseason games, and then we'll talk about Levis and how the Titans should and you would handle Will Levis in the preseason. So who do you not need to see from Titans players in preseason games? But first, let me tell everybody about Farm Bureau Health Plans, fbhp.com/ATOZ. That is our link. That is where you should go to check out potential health coverage. One of our employees earlier this week reached out to me and said, hey, I'm about to turn 26. Got to get off my parents' plan. Can I get the link for Farm Bureau Health Plans? Get the contact. I just sent him the direct email to reach out to get that process started, and he's already gotten that off the ground and running for him. So they can do the same thing for you, whether you're in that same situation of needing to get off your parents and family plan and go into that next level of adulthood, or maybe you're already in adulthood. Maybe your family's growing and you're trying to figure out that best coverage plan for you and your growing family. Or maybe you're like my parents. They've been empty nested for, a decade at this point, 15 years almost at this point. My mom retired. It's time to get that different level of coverage. And they went to Farm Bureau Health Plans and saved a bunch of money doing that as well. So you can check them out online and get a quote by using our link today, fbhp.com/ATOZ.
BetMGM.com, guys, if you're looking to get some skin in the game, you're looking to throw some money down. Team USA's in action on the hardwood. LeBron and co. got it done against Canada last night. You've got MLB, NBA Summer League, Euro Cup Final, Copa America. All this fun stuff's going on right now. So if you want to pass some time, if you want to kill an hour or two, in your evening, get some skin in the game. Sign up with BetMGM. Use our bonus code A2Z Sports and get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. Great deal going on for BetMGM right now. Easy app to navigate for new users. So I encourage you all, if you haven't signed up, do it now. BetMGM, code A2Z Sports.
All right, so Jack, Brian Callahan's philosophy that they plan to play starters in the preseason games. Obviously, we'll see more details on that. Injuries also play a factor in that overall. But we asked the question, and I'll send you the chat here in a second. But we need everybody to like the show. So if you haven't liked the show yet on YouTube, if you haven't liked it yet on Facebook, please do that for us. It goes a long way for us. But who are Titans players you don't need to see in preseason games? Jack, I'll toss it to the chat.
Jody Newell's going to kick it off on Facebook. He says Big Jeff. Scott Weaver agrees. He's going to throw L'Jarius Sneed in there as well. Josh says Sneed. D-Hop from Cam Strong. We don't need to see Ryan Stonehouse. Well, spoiler alert, you're not going to see Ryan Stonehouse.
Yeah, time out real quick on that, because we did a Doc Talk conversation on Ryan Stonehouse back in the spring, and Jack, you wrote an article about that. You can Google Ryan Stonehouse Doc Talk and find that content there. But the timeline seems like he's going to be on PUP, physically unable to perform, throughout training camp, and then probably start the season on PUP to be able to come back after 4 games, which the schedule sets up 4 games by week. So that's an extra benefit to that timeline. So yeah, Pastor John, you're not going to see Stonehouse, but that's the correct answer there too.
Simmons, Big Jeff, Simmons, D-Hop, Big Jeff. Need to see everyone. F it, says Darren Lee. Everybody's got to get out there. New coordinators in all 3 phases. He wants to see him out there and get some chemistry down early. Big Jeff and D-Hop. Sneed, Jeff, D-Hop. Big Jeff, Simmons and D-Hop and Sneed. Sneed and Simmons. Everyone. He wants to see everyone. IR Hoshi does. None. He needs to see I guess everyone, like our host, just answered it differently. Hopkins, obviously. Simmons and most starters on defense. Really, Randy, you're comfortable with those guys sitting out in the preseason. D-Hop, Big Jeff, Snead, Simmons, and D-Hop. Harold Landry, Simmons, Snead, Landry, Boyd. Boyd's an interesting answer. They all need reps. All right, I'm going to go ahead and give my answer.
Yeah,
and I tend to agree with this comment right here from Jaron Myers. These are three guys I don't need to see. I don't need to see Harold Landry. I don't need to see Big Jeff, and I don't need to see L'Jarius Sneed. I feel like if I had to pick one of those guys that I would prefer to see, I'd like to see L'Jarius Sneed just to kind of ease some of my concerns about the knee. He wasn't out there during minicamp. I'm sure he'll be out there during training camp. But Sneed plays a position where it's really just him versus guy. And obviously you got to get acclimated into Denard Wilson's scheme. But Sneed is going to be on an island against wide receiver ones the entire season. I don't need him going out and breaking his back in the preseason. And same with Big Jeff. Like I fully trust Big Jeff and Harold Landry to do what they need to do in the offseason to show up ready to ball on week one. So those three guys I don't necessarily need to see. Now, people threw in D-Hop. I want to see D-Hop. I want to see Ridley. And I want to see Tyler Boyd because you're in a new system. I want them all to get that timing down. It's so important. You do not want these guys to be on different pages week one, which is what the Titans under Mike Vrabel were. They averaged, I have it right here in front of me, 21 points per game in week one in the 6 games under Vrabel.
And so much of that is that Browns game where they have like 40-something.
Without the Browns game, just 16.8 points per game in week one games. But it gets worse. You without playing the starters in the preseason, you're already going to struggle in week one. You're already going to have rust. But where's that going to show up most? The first half. In 6 games under Mike Vrabel in week one, the Titans scored just 3 touchdowns in the first half.
Ooh,
3 first half touchdowns in 6 season opening games.
That's great.
That can't happen. Like, you got to have this offense under Brian Callahan. If you're going to win by scoring points, you got to get these guys rolling early. And a lot of teams are probably going to take some time to figure it out on offense. A lot of teams with new coordinators, new head coaches, it's going to take a little extra time. But if you can get some of that stuff knocked away in the preseason, you're going to set yourself up for some early success, which is why I think the Brian Callahan plan is the right way to go.
So I agree with you. I think the entire offense needs to be playing in preseason games. Now, Justin says Tyler Boyd knows the offense already. Yeah, that's true.
But no Levis, though.
Yeah, exactly. So that's where you have to be with that. So I'm with you. The entire offense, O-line, quarterback, Ridley, DeAndre Hopkins needs to play some of the preseason. Not everybody has to play the same, but I want to see everybody that you think is a starter on the offense get preseason game reps. So I flip to the defensive side because we're asking the question, what Titans players do you not need to see in the preseason games? I only have 2. I only have Big Jeff and Harold Landry. Like I think because those 2 positions are, look, no position in the NFL or in football is an individual position. Even the punter is not an individual position. It's pretty close. But D-line and edge rusher are also 2 of the more individual positions in the NFL. And so having the ability to go beat his guy, Jeff, doing what he knows he needs to do. Yes, scheme is important, but I don't need to see Jeff out there. The last couple of years, he's dealt with ankle injuries or other things that have happened. I think we've seen why he's dropped down in the ESPN D-line rankings is because he hasn't been able to play like his same self, being a terror out there. So Landry I also don't need to see. Now, Roy says Landry needs to test his Achilles. Well, he has a completely fine Achilles. He tore his ACL 2 years ago. So if anything, you might say test the ACL, but his Achilles is completely intact and has never been an issue. So Roy might be getting some ligaments and tendons confused there. Those aren't even the same thing. ACL is a ligament, Achilles is a tendon. So you're not even the correct aspect there. Yes, but I think his knee is fine. This is now, if this was last year, the first year off of the ACL, yes, Harold Landry, go out there and play some preseason reps. But this is year 2. He had 9 sacks the last 12 games. Who cares, right? He's ready to go. I think he's fine. So I do want to see L'Jarius Sneed because we haven't seen L'Jarius Sneed really do anything yet. So I'd like to see L'Jarius Sneed go out there and play, a couple series, nothing much. I just want to see physical proof that L'Jarius Sneed can go out there and play full speed reps. And then I'm good. Like that, we just haven't seen it yet. It's this whole knee thing you have to monitor. The Chiefs had to monitor it last year. And so I just want to see L'Jarius Sneed go full speed in a game situation for like a series and a half and then call it a day. And then I'm good. So, but my two guys I don't need to see whatsoever are Harold Landry, Jeff Simmons.
And I'll go a little deeper on why I don't care to see Sneed in the preseason. Every series in the preseason is important for somebody. It might not be important for all the starters. It might not be important for guys who are going to make the roster. It's going to be important for somebody. And the depth at the cornerback position, like this is as solid of a group of starters as we've probably had in Tennessee. But the guys behind him, like Trey Avery, who's going to kind of emerge as that next man up in the cornerback room? Could it be Gabe Jeudy-Lally? Could it be a Jarvis Brownlee, who's probably going to play more inside than out? Getting extra reps for those guys behind him, because I feel confident in L'Jarius Sneed in the regular season. But say something happens to Chidobe Awuzie, who's just a year removed from a season-ending injury, or L'Jarius Sneed, who's had chronic knee issues. Mm-hmm. Who's going to be that next man up? And are they going to be comfortable to step in? Do they have enough reps under their belt? Do they have enough reps against starters under their belt? All that stuff's important to me too. So if L'Jarius Sneed doesn't make it out there in the preseason, I'm not going to be too beat up about it, because that means the depth guys are going to have more experience and they're going to be able to hit the ground running as well, just like the offense should be able to with more time in the preseason to work.
Yep. All right. So we're getting some people saying like, Roger, if Sneed plays, they'll probably not throw his way, so we're not going to see much. Pistol Rams says, I don't want to see Sneed go down in preseason. Chef Rand, Sneed just needs to stay healthy, baby. Look, of course, like Bork says, if Sneed doesn't practice, wouldn't he balk at being asked to play in the preseason? I mean, it doesn't have to be his decision. Like you can tell players, hey, this is your job. You're doing this. Like it's not just all catering to the player in situations. And I think Sneed would probably go out there and play if they asked him to and wanted him to, because it seems like to me, from what I've learned, is that he's a really good teammate. So I think he would do that if told to do. So there's our conversation there. All right, let's go ahead, Jack, and now jump into the Will Levis side of this conversation. So let's ask this very open-ended question. How would you handle Will Levis's playing time in the preseason if you were the Titans? We'll play the Brian Callahan clip again, but how would you handle Will Levis's playing time in the preseason games if you were the Tennessee Titans? But first, telling everybody about the Bone and Joint Institute. Actually, Jack had my follow-up appointment on my patella tendonitis yesterday with my guy, Dr. Scott Arthur. The physical therapy has helped. It's not inflamed. It is chilled out. It is something I continue to have to be careful with, but overall, good stuff coming out of that situation. So was able to get in and out very quickly with that follow-up appointment with the Bone and Joint Institute. It's super easy. And then Dr. Arthur told me, hey, just shoot me a text in a couple months and let me know how you're feeling and see if we're on the right track there too. So really getting personal, getting to know you, your situation, and how you want to get healthy with whatever you might be dealing with. So go check them out in Franklin. If you ever have an injury, if you have something that's lingering that you want to get more information on, they can do that for you just like they did for me this past spring and summer with my knee. boneandjointtn.org to book an appointment. Once again, boneandjointtn.org.
BetMGM.com, code A to Z Sports is what new users can use when they sign up with BetMGM to get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses. College football win totals, Heisman Trophy bets, national title futures. You've got NFL season-long player props, Calvin Ridley, Will Levis, DeAndre Hopkins, just a few of the Titans that are up there you can bet on ahead of the game before the odds move a ton, before the regular season rolls around. BetMGM is the perfect place to get some skin in the game if you're looking to do so, or if you're looking to make a move from an old sports book, switch up your mojo. BetMGM is a great place for you to land. Use code A to Z Sports when you sign up, and you'll get up to $1,500 back in bonus bets if your first bet misses.
BetMGM and GameSense remind you to play responsibly. Visit BetMGM.com for terms and conditions. 21 or older. Tennessee only. New customer offer. All promotions subject to qualification. Over comments. First online room money wager only. Rewards issued eligible bonus bets that expire in 7 days. And for a problem game of sport, call Tennessee Redline 800-889-9789. All right, so we're asking about how would you handle Will Levis in the preseason if you were the Titans. We'll get to all of your answers on this, but first here was Brian Callahan again with the OTP talking about his preseason philosophy.
How do you, in your coaching philosophy, from an evaluation standpoint, see preseason games?
Preseason is important. I think I've learned some lessons over the years. We kind of adopted that LA Rams mentality when we got to Cincinnati, where we didn't play our starters at all. We had some injuries with Burrow last year, where we were going to play our starters more because we had been a kind of slow starting team out of the gate, and that was one of the things we felt like might help us is playing in the preseason more. And obviously, we weren't going to put our guys out there in Cincinnati without Joe with them. It just didn't make sense. So I believe in those guys playing some in the preseason. I think it helps you get ready for the opener, so the opener's not the first time you've been tackled or the first time you hit a game speed. And even though the preseason game speed is not the same as the regular season, it's still playing live football. And I think starters playing a little bit in those games, I think, is going to go a long way. The joint practices will be important, where we get a ton of work against the team in a more controlled environment. But you'll see our starters play in the preseason.
So you'll see our starters playing the preseason. So, Jack, I'll send you to the chat. How would you handle Will Levis's playing time in preseason games if you were the Titans? What's everybody saying here?
Eric on YouTube says 1 drive, maybe 2. Josh says he needs to see a full half of football from Levis. Plays the first half of every game from Darren. 2 series or 1 successful drive for a touchdown. Stephen King says 2 drives. 2 series every game from Pistol Ramsey. Full quarter every game from Chef Rand. We've got 2 to 3 series. First half of the first game. First quarter of games. Andre Bunting wants to give him significant time to get live reps with the new system and players. We've got a few series to a quarter. 1 series per game. Quarter first game. Let him play a half of preseason week 3. Jaron Myers says a half up until halftime. Let him run it. Let's see. I would treat it like it was 2009. Play 1 series a game, 1, 2, or 3, game 2, then 1 series after halftime, game 3. Interesting strategy. Levis, 50 to 70% of snaps, depending on how he looks. Now, that's a huge chunk in the preseason. Game 1, 2 drives. Game 2, 3 drives. Game 3, 1 quarter. Okay, that's pretty
1 quarter is probably less than 3 drives.
Mm-hmm. You think? It depends on how
could
the drives go.
Yeah, I mean, 1 quarter could be 2 drives. 1 quarter could be 1 drive.
So we got 2 series here. He needs to play the first half of the first 2 games from Jody Newell. First quarter, 2 games. Should play the first quarter or first half is what Patrick says. We've got, let's see what else we got. I'll read a couple more. First half in the first game. First quarter in the second game. 1 to 2 drives in the third game. So we've seen that comment a few times here. Let's see. Start a quarter for each game. Austin, I'm going to go with a simple plan. Okay. You need to see Will Levis. You don't need to see too much of Will Levis, right? I'm going to go with a simple plan of 2-4-2. Okay. 2 drives, game 1, 4 drives, game 2, 2 drives, game 3. 2-4-2. That gives him 8 drives with his new offensive weapons, which is plenty of time to get acclimated, to work out some of the kinks. I think the 2-4-2 method is fine. I was going to go 3-4-3, but I don't think you need 10 drives out of Levis and these guys, especially with the offensive line still trying to figure things out as well, because that's part of the offense we haven't talked about. Like, Will Levis needs a rapport with these wide receivers, but is the offensive line going to sustain for three drives here, 4 drives there, 3 drives next game? So they're going to have some stuff to work out as well. I think the 2-4-2 method is a great plan. It's enough time to get these guys ready, and it's enough time to build a rapport between Levis and Ridley, Levis and Boyd, Levis and Hopkins, Levis and Wiley, all the different options that he's going to have. 2-4-2 is my plan.
So I think it's hard to do quarters because, what if the Titans get the ball second and the opponent has a sustained drive and chews up 5 minutes, and you get the second drive, maybe you get 3 to 4 minutes, get a couple of first downs, punt or something, and the first quarter is over on the third drive and you only got 1, right? So it's hard to go drives. So I think you have to hard to go quarters. I think you either have to go drives or snaps. And so I think with what you're saying, I want to see at least 25 snaps in each of the preseason games, in all of them, right? So 25 snaps in 1, 2, and 3. So there's about 75 snaps, which is a little bit over one full game in the NFL for the most part. I also think it is beneficial to either maybe the second preseason game to have Levis and the starting offense come out and open the third quarter and do one drive after halftime, right? Because it's a different level of you played a half, you go inside, you do a couple things, you come out and you go right back into it and then call it a day. So I would say at least 25 snaps in all games. I think that gives you enough of a sample size. That could be 2 drives that were successful, right? If you get 2 drives and 25 combined snaps, you're probably at least putting up 10 points, right? Maybe 14. So that's kind of where I'm at with that. And then if that's the case, then okay, great. 2 touchdown drives out of Will Levis and you get, 25 snaps or whatever to complete that drive, then good for the day. But maybe you have a couple 3 and outs. Maybe you have a shorter drive or you have an early turnover. I would like to see the ability to get at least 25 snaps in every game and then have at least one game where they start the third quarter and do a drive out of the locker room. So that's how I would handle it.
Yeah, and the benefit of having Mason Rudolph as your backup, a guy who's been in the league for a while, who's won games as a starter, it's not like he needs all these reps, in case of emergency situations that tend to pop up in the regular season when you're playing 17 football games and you got a quarterback like Levis who simply won't slide or take care of himself because he's too competitive. Usually it'd be important to get the backups reps or, in Titans years past, like Malik Willis, he needed some reps. They needed to figure out what Malik Willis had. Well, you kind of got an answer on Malik Willis. It's not the one you wanted, but you're not going to be out there saying, man, I'd really like to figure out who we have behind our starter. So Will Levis, he can go out there and play as little or as much as he wants. In the backups, you should still feel fine with Mason Rudolph back there, no matter how much time he gets in the preseason. Look, I think that the 2-4-2 plan's good. With that being said, if they can punch it in the end zone, if they can score a touchdown in the games where he's playing 2 drives, I think you call it quits there. I think maybe even in the games where you have him, where you want to see a quarter and a half out of him, a touchdown or 2 scoring drives should be enough. You want to put a label or you want to put a number on the drives, but at the end of the day, you want this offense to have success out there, to feel like they can do it, to know that they have done it before, and kind of figure out a path to how they were able to have success. So the number of drives is fine, but number of successful drives, I think half that, 4 successful drives will be enough for me to feel confident in Will Levis in this offense heading into the regular season.
Yeah, and I think whenever Will Levis is out there, everybody else is too, right? I think if Will Levis is out there, all 5 of people, like the starting line or the offensive line, should have 5 people who are fighting for a starting job. If Levis is there, so is Latham, so is Skoronski, so is Cushenberry. And then the right side is any combination of the 5 or 6 players that are trying to fight for that job. And you probably want to lean towards the front runners when Levis is in the game. I think out there you have a decent amount of reps with Ridley and Hopkins and Chig and Wiley and Spears and Pollard. But you can also rotate in, obviously, Burks and NWI and some of those other guys that are trying to. And so I think you got to have everybody out there when Levis is there. He can throw to some lesser pass catchers because that's not affecting him as much, or his safety as much. But you want the best 2 running backs and the best 5 possible offensive linemen and the pass protectors out there when he's there. Rotate in the other receivers. I think that works.
And that's another good part, right? Like you've got Traylon Burks and NWI as your 4 and your 5, no matter which order you have those 2 guys in. But they've already got a rapport with Levis, right? Like they were running 2s with Levis last year.
I mean, I don't know. I don't know about that. I don't think Traylon Burks has much of a rapport with Levis because if you look at what Burks was doing, he was in and out with that concussion right after Levis took over. Not a lot of completions towards Burks' way. I think that's maybe here's a different show. One of the more important chemistries that need to be built in training camp in the preseason is Levis and Burks.
But you're not going to hang Will Levis out there for the entire first half to build a rapport with NWI and Traylon Burks. By the way, he's got a nice rapport with NWI. So, like, because they've already had, a little bit of a head start on that, whereas Ridley and Boyd really haven't. And Wiley hasn't had a ton of reps with Levis. So, I'm more interested on the starting unit going out there with Levis because, like you said at the top of the show, what's the point in having these star wide receivers playing out there with Mason Rudolph at quarterback? Like, no shade to Mason Rudolph. He's not Will Levis. And you don't want your top receivers going out there and laying themselves out for hospital balls, potentially risking injury in the preseason when you're starting quarterbacks over there on the sideline drinking some Gatorade.
Yeah, and like the other thing too is, the Titans offense is a pretty young offense, right? Like Cushionberry's 26. He just got paid. He's a veteran free agent addition, but he's still young. Latham, Skoronski, young guys like Radens and NPF and Jalen Duncan and Sadiq Charles. They're all 26 or younger on the right side of the O-line. Chig and Wiley, third year, second year. So everybody besides Ridley, D-Hop, and Boyd are young in the NFL. Maybe Tony Pollard, but he's also like 26, 27 too. Mm-hmm. So I think you feel good about the youth and the talent, so they can go out there and play and not feel like you have to manage them as much, where I'm cool with managing Jeff Simmons and Harold Landry, even though Jeff is still just 26 years old. It feels like he's been around a lot longer to be just 26.
That is
Harold,
crazy.
Yeah, isn't it weird? And then Harold, I believe, is like 28. So, I think everybody else is pretty young. And Bork says a quality center under 30. What a rarity for the Titans. I mean, you got Ben Jones. Ben Jones
he was solid.
Came here as a very solid center under 30, and he stayed a solid center beyond 30. So, I think overall, your Levis plan, my Levis plan, they could align. They could be slightly off. I like the snap count route better than the drives route because I think there's too many variables to say 2 drives, 4 drives, 2 drives. We don't know what type of work they're getting done in those 8 total drives. So I'd rather see 75 snaps. I think I can learn enough from 75 snaps rather than 8 drives.
4 scoring drives would be great, though, even if it's 75 snaps. 4 scoring drives, I think you've seen enough from these guys to feel confident moving forward. The one thing on the Ben Jones thing, is Ben Jones the Steve McNair of Titan centers? I mean, with all the injuries that guy played through.
Without a doubt.
Yeah. Respect to Ben Jones. Missed that guy.
Without a doubt. All right. Make sure you hit that like button. I'll show King VC Super Chat from earlier. Lock in, like the show if you haven't already on Facebook and on YouTube. Please do that for us. It goes a long way. Jack, let's go ahead and get to it here. And it's the Magic Bucket to wrap up this Thursday. Shout out Wilson County Hyundai. Make them a part of your new car buying process. Go see them in Lebanon or online at wilsoncountyhyundai.com. Say hey to Payne Bone for us if you do. They'll help you save money in that ride. No downtown prices, Lebanon prices. Save money. Wilson County Hyundai. All right. Magic Bucket time.
Lord have mercy.
Who's first?
I don't. You tell me. We haven't done the bucket together in a minute.
I know. Sam did the bucket last time. I'll go first.
Okay.
I don't think I've done this. Maybe I have. But I'll do it again because it's easy and it's fun. Wear an eye patch on the show tomorrow without addressing it.
You've done that. You've definitely done that.
Yeah, but I think it's fun.
All right.
I think it's fun. I think it's simple. So,
all right. Well, make sure you pull me a fun one since you just pulled yourself a fun one.
I have no control over that. See, there's just things in here.
No puzzles. No puzzles. No puzzles.
You've done how to change a tire before. Thank God.
Yeah, I actually hilarious. You bring that up. How to change a tire 3 days ago. Picked up a nail in mine. So I had to loosen. I had to take the bolts or the nuts, whatever you call them. I had to take them off before we jacked it.
That's right.
I was like,
you remembered it. Wow, that's impressive.
Came in handy.
All right, here you go, Jack. I don't think you've done this. What's the most embarrassing fashion trend you used to rock?
That's a good. I feel like in middle school, the plaid era was big, right?
Okay.
So I think the plaid trend. I still like me flannel from time to time, but I guess it would have to be the plaid trend. It was like a plaid pants every now and then. I feel like
Plaid. Oh, like the plaid shorts.
yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was a bad look. Why did we do that? Why did people do that? I'd have to
I
say
don't know.
that's my most regrettable.
I
trend
do
of the
remember
whole-
having one pair of plaid shorts. But I think it might have been high school time, early high school for me, which would have been
That's probably the same plaid era that we're talking.
yeah, but I didn't wear them that. It wasn't like they were like they just like you have like your alternate shorts, or I don't know if you guys have this. I have my litmus test on when it's time to do laundry. Like when you get to this pair of socks, or you get to this pair of underwear, or you get to your plaid shorts, like yeah, it's I'm way overdue for laundry. And it's like it's like that is what I have that. I have socks and underwear. And I'm like, damn it, it has been way too long. This is like the alarm bell for laundry session. So
Yeah, but you have to keep those just to know that you need to do laundry.
yes,
Because otherwise there's not a signal, right?
It's your punishment for not doing laundry sooner. And so that's what the plaid shorts were for me back in the day.
Some great answers in the chat, by the way. IR host, she says Jeanco jeans, corduroys from Lucas. We got a mohawk from Rashid. I think that's awesome. Let's see, cargo shorts. We've got teased bangs. I saw. Where are you? I lost my spot. Teased bangs from Vanessa. An afro in high school. I don't think afros ever go out of style. So that's parachute pants. Were you in on the parachute pants?
No, I was not that. Not that
you weren't that in deep. Okay.
No, that was before I was wearing pants, probably.
Highlights, camo. Let's see, parachute pants. Oh, that's not what I wanted to pull up. Chain wallets, fanny packs. Yeah, okay. So
fanny packs are
everybody's great. Yeah, to school though.
Oh no, just
not
like
to school, never to school. Oh man,
fanny packs can be great.
You'd be in hell at that lunch table.
Fanny packs had a comeback recently. I think I've already answered this. I think my answer was the cargo shorts. Like what do you keep it? Like how many coins you keeping in there? What all do you have in that cargo shorts? You don't need a tape measure. You're not a contractor. Like contractors wearing cargo shorts. Yeah, makes sense because you need stuff in your pockets. But like, I don't have anything in my pockets. Also, like the car keys lanyard, like the long lanyard.
Yes,
you
yeah.
You had the keys in your pocket.
Hanging out of your pocket.
Lanyard was hanging down all the way to your knee, or you wore it around your neck. Like, why are you doing that for? Like, you don't need a lanyard. So I think those are some good ones there too. But all right, Jack, that'll be it for us on this Thursday. Make sure you do like the show. Buck will be live tonight to wrap up his primetime week at 7 p.m. Central Time. But please like that show before you go. I know Sam's got an article coming out on A2ZSports.com and our socials. Jack, you'll have one to follow as well, talking some more Titans topics. And Sam and I'll be back tomorrow morning. We've got a good topic already in the holster. We'll see what else happens throughout the day. But appreciate it as always. We'll catch you guys on a Friday. Thanks.
Tighten Up Pod out now.